Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is Bill Murray, and I work as a mentor for startups as well as work inside big companies to help people in those companies do innovation and design and help design new products, services, and experiences. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about nailing an idea. And nailing an idea is about having the discipline at that eureka moment to be able to step back and understand your customer and their problem contexts. Because ideas are great, but we're programmed and rewarded to think about solutions first. The problem is, though, that that's not what our customer is thinking about. Fall in love with your customer's problem first. Hold on to your idea, but understand that customers connect problems directly to outcomes, and that problems are static, they're strategic, they define the design space for solutions to get them from that problem to their outcome. Solutions are just that tool that customers use to get from where they are to where they want to get. Solutions themselves are not the outcome, and it's important to remember that. So that's the risk of ideas, is that sometimes we get so attached to them, we don't realize that actually there's an outcome that our customer really wants to achieve that's transcends the idea that we have for a problem solution. Overall, the most important thing for an entrepreneur, because you have limited runway, is you need to reduce risk. And the two biggest risks in building for an entrepreneur are either building the wrong thing, something nobody wants, or building too much of the right thing, overbuilding it. Both of those represent waste that could put you out of business before you ever have a chance to be successful. So everything is a product. And this shocks people and sometimes aggravates people, but it's true. Anything that exists must exist to drive some sort of value to someone at some time in some situation. It can be products, services, experiences. It's the road you drive on. It's the car you drive. It's the breakfast that you choose. It's the air you breathe. When you're inside a building, that air is a product, and I can prove it because there's someone on the payroll in that building whose job it is to make sure that the air is the right temperature, the right humidity, and it's clean. So think about what you're trying to do in terms of how it's a product, because if you don't, you're not going to see the connection for your customer. So if in fact everything is a product, and I believe it is, then if something is to exist, it should be subjected to the rigor of design. And let's talk about that. Design thinking, design, whatever people are calling it these days, there's a lot of names, there's a lot of different ways to show it. It's a mindset. It's a mindset that doesn't start with solutions. And it's a mindset that is suspicious of ideas. The framework I'm showing here is called the Kumar model, and I've made a few adjustments to it. It's not the best one necessarily. It's the one that I like the most when I'm trying to explain it to people. And you've got 4 sectors here. You go from research to analysis to synthesis to realization. You do this in a upside down U shape. You go from understanding on the left to creating on the right. And you start in the concrete with learning about real situations. You move up into the abstract to analyze what you've learned. You stay in the abstract to synthesize potential solutions, and then you come back down into the concrete to expose your customer to your value proposition. So we study, we tell stories, we brainstorm, and then we prototype. And there are 7 steps within these 4 quadrants. The first one, most importantly, being sense intent. What is it that I'm seeing in the world? Now, that doesn't sound like an idea for a product, and importantly, it isn't. In design, we don't start with an idea for a product. We start with some sort of epiphany. You're walking around in the world, or you're interacting with people and you notice something, they're doing something, they're saying something, they're feeling something, and you ask yourself why. After you ask that question of why, you go out and you understand the context. Where, when, how often is this happening? And then to whom? Who are the people that are experiencing this in the most profound way? Because these people will become your first customers if you choose to pursue a path to solving their problem. As we move up into the abstract, we go from the what, all the data, to the why, which is our theory based on all the data we have, putting it together, our theory of why this situation is happening. Why do we have this problem? Why does the customer have this problem? Why are they doing these things? Why are they saying and feeling these things? So at this point, we're able to tell a story of what we believe the theory of value is to the customer. Hey, this thing is happening because of this. And if that's the case, then we move over into the brainstorming area, still in the abstract, but now into the create mode. Is if these things are correct in number 4, if truly the customer is doing this for this reason, then we should be able to help them in this sort of conceptual way. We don't quite have a solution yet, but we have a solution space. That solution space could be education, connection to opportunities, connections to other people. These are more strategic sort of concepts that reflect what we believe about the customer from our insights. From there, we do start to frame solutions. Okay, we have these opportunity spaces. Communication is the thing we believe would help get this customer further along from where they are to where they want to get. All right, what are ways we could use communication in a concrete way to help them? And what could we show them to see if they actually respond to it? Once we have those things understood, we build them into something that's physical. It's a concrete thing that we have created. We're going to realize these offerings as prototypes. This is how we're going to solve for the customer. We drop these things in front of the customer. We allow them to interact with them and find out if they actually do proverbially pick up the hammer. If we hand them a hammer, do they pick it up? Do they actually use it for what it's for? Or do they look at it and say, this isn't going to help me? At that point, once we get that behavioral signal from the customer, we have an opportunity to make some decisions. We might iterate. We might find that the experiment that we didn't give us valuable data because we made an assumption around a variable that turned out not to be true, or we ended up testing 2 variables at the same time and it clouded up the results. So we may iterate, which means go back, fix the experiment so that we're only testing one thing so that we know exactly what the customer is doing and why, because we want to get new insights out of every experiment. That's iterate. Now, iterate doesn't mean, oh, the customer didn't pick up the hammer. Well, let's just try it again. That's not iteration. That's just beating a dead horse. So don't do that. Only iterate when you realize that you made a mistake in experimental design and you need to get rid of something that was causing some noise. You may decide to stop at this point. You handed your solution to the customer and they said, you don't understand me. This isn't what I need at all, which means you may need to go back to the beginning. You just missed it for whatever reason, but that's okay, because the cool thing is that you did this in a low fidelity way. You didn't spend $1 million or $100,000 or even $1,000 on testing your insights. You spent either nothing or so little that it doesn't matter. Or you may pivot at this point. Now, pivot is a word that's way overused, especially in the entrepreneurial community. A pivot is something very specific that we do at the point of prototyping. We show the customer the prototype, and then we find out that we've either made a mistake on the customer, the problem, or the solution. We either had the wrong customer, we just sourced the wrong person. We made a mistake in who actually had this problem. It wasn't this person, it was actually another person. We made a mistake as understanding the problem. Our insights turned out to be false. We didn't understand the data that we collected. Or we missed the mark on the solution. The solution that we gave them, it was the right customer. They had the problem, but we missed the mark on how they would want to solve it, what they would be willing to do to solve it. Those different pivots take us back to different points in this model. A mistake on customer takes us back to the lower left-hand corner. We got to go back and understand things over again. A mistake in problem probably takes us back to the upper left corner, which means we need to understand the story a little bit better and retell the story. A mistaken solution takes us to the upper right corner. Hey, we had everything right, but something broke down in where we translated insights to opportunity spaces to concrete solutions that we could test. So what's nice is that a map like this allows you to kind of move around and understand where you are. Now, the exciting thing is if the customer loved what you had and you understand why they loved it, and you're able to use that to keep yourself moving forward to whatever your next assumption is in working with your customer, you may persevere. And that's the final option that you have at this point. Persevering means, hey, we've got the customer right, we got the problem right, we've got the solution right. Now we just need to understand how to develop this for larger groups of people that might have a slightly smaller version of the problem. What else do we need to do? And these could be even questions of scaling. Hey, we've got this down, but we need to build it in a way that scales. To take you through this from a tactical standpoint, what are the kind of things that you'll be doing in this space? Well, again, in number one, you'll observe the world. You may have a combination of data and observation. And you say, hey, there's something going on here and it's unusual and we need to get to the bottom of it. So you're going to go out and you're going to observe and document the context of the behavior. Then you're going to go out and you're going to segment people. Hey, there's some people that are doing these things. There's some people that are doing these things. There's some people that are having a big problem and some that aren't. And then we're going to get to that story. We're going to combine the primary research, secondary research, things that we know ourselves and we know are on our team, all together into a cogent insight or set of insights around our customer. Then we're going to go and start mapping those to opportunity spaces. What are those things that we can do? Then we're going to start saying, okay, within those areas that we can do things, what specifically could we build? Then we're going to build the prototypes and MVPs. If you're asking me what's the difference between a prototype and an MVP, prototypes are typically experiments that you run to test features of products when you're unsure about a feature, whereas an MVP or a minimum viable product, again, something that's way overused and it's been diluted too much out there in the entrepreneurial community. An MVP is more around testing a specific customer behavior. Can we get the customer to do the thing that they'll have to be able to do, be willing to do, to connect to our value proposition? So an MVP and a prototype are a little bit different that way, but you can use them obviously with the same customer within the same set of experiments. So what are the next steps? As we were talking about at the end here, test your idea against those insights. Don't throw away your idea. Hold on to it. And when it gets time to translate those opportunity spaces to concrete prototypes or MVPs with our customer, then it's time to bring that idea out and hold it up to the candle of the insights and the opportunity spaces. Does this idea actually live in that area? And if it does, great. We'll test it. If it doesn't, what disconnect did I have with my customer early on when I had this epiphany that potentially made my idea risky to pursue? What's the key behavior that your customer is going to be willing to engage in to access that solution or value prop? That is really the big question you need to ask. There are lots of great solutions products in the world that people never use because they're inaccessible for some reason. And these are typically emotional, cultural, habitual, all the types of things that go on in someone's mind and in their daily life. Identify those key behaviors as risky assumptions and then test those with your MVP of your idea. Answering the question here in the third bullet point is, what's the simplest thing that I can do to test that? Not the most expensive. What's the simplest way that I can get them to engage in that behavior that shows me that they're willing to do it in exchange for value? That's my short time together tonight. Would love to talk with you at any time. Reach out to me. Here's my information. I do some coaching for teams and for startups, as well as some of the work that I do in big companies. Would love to talk to you about what's going on and just share a few minutes and bounce some ideas off you, and hear the types of things that are challenging you and the things that are exciting you. So again, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to meeting you in person.